Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the VMATYC virtual conference. Our next presenter is Mari Menard. Mari Menard earned a bachelor's and master's of science degrees in the mathematics for Lamar University in Beaumont, Texas. She is professor of mathematics at Lone Star College, Kingwood in Kingwood, Texas. Mari is the Math Lab Facility Liaison for Math Learning Support Lab at her campus, affording her the opportunity to work with tutors and students alike enrolled college math courses. She believes in learning from all experiences, enjoys time with her husband, and playing golf. Mari is the primary author of the implementation guide to support the Corequisite support modules. If you have any questions during this session, please feel free to enter those into the chat section at the bottom of the Zoom room screen, and we will address them at the end of the talk. Without further ado, I will hand it over to Mari.
Thank you. Just a little bit of a note. My name is Mary Menard. It's just spelled a little weird. But yes, my name is Mary. I am in Lone Star College, Kingwood in Kingwood, Texas. It's north east of Houston. And I'm going to go ahead and see how my technology is working today. So let's see how it goes. All right, so hopefully you are seeing my screen, and I'm going to start this from the beginning. Hopefully everybody is good. If you're not, I'm assuming somebody will let me know. So here we go. We're going to go ahead and get started. And so I like to kind of give this a little bit of a intro before when we started Corequisites. So this is kind of like just a very generic summary for us. So we were mandated by the state to start Corequisites in the fall of 2018, with 25% of our students, our developmental students, had to be enrolled in their Corequisite course and their credit level course. And so we, our system, how does that sound? Our system decided to designate the Corequisite course a laboratory, which, by the way, was a really good thing, and what they call a non-course based option, covering objectives students would need to be successful in that credit level course. We had no choice but to do just in time, because that's what the state required us to do. So the students had to be enrolled in both classes at the same time. So there was no where they could start the Corequisite early and then be introduced to the credit level. So we had to start it at the same time. Now, the cool thing was, though, is, as noted here, is we were given such great latitude with what we were going to do, from campus to campus, even some of our satellite campuses, because the population is so different, and because this is so new. How does that sound? So I like to just kind of keep in the back of your head how long it took us to get developmental math the way we thought it was, which was good. And we hoped that it helped our students. So currently we're in, the fall of 2021 with, the, COVID. So the fall of 2018 had something for us too. For our campus, we experienced Harvey. Our actual campus flooded. We were out of our campus for a year. So we went online at that time, and it was a very different thing. So throughout this whole process of Corequisites, it's been interesting. From when we started it in fall 2018 to where we are now, there's not been one nice, calm semester, I don't think. So the one thing that is a little bit challenging for most students is the understanding that if they drop one course, they're dropped from both courses. And that's something, again, that our system, Texas, pretty much said that's the way it's going to be. So All right, so this is what I know of co-requisites. So I started learning co-requisite terminology in, like I said, fall of 2018. And if you were first introduced to co-requisites, it's going to be kind of weird because you're going to hear all these different terminologies, and there's probably even some more recent ones. And see, that's the thing too, is I love the fact that things are kind of changing, and we're thinking of better ways to do this. And so I'm always up for to change something. In fact, I've just decided to change something for my classes starting in the spring. So I always have a what's called commingled class for my non-STEM, my STEM co-requisite and business math class. But I always want a cohort for my college algebra and co-requisite. And that I'll explain that to you in just a little bit, but that is what I've experienced. So I've experienced both the cohort and the commingled. I've never done like a one-to-one with another instructor. What that is the one instructor will teach the co-requisite, and then say I would teach the credit level. I've never experienced that part. So for me, I've either been that cohort where all the students are mine, I teach both the co-requisite and I teach the college algebra, for example, or I have all the co-requisite students in the math for business class, but they take a variety of different instructors for the credit level class. So that's where I've been for that part of it. I've not taught any of the non-STEM side of this. The nice thing is when we kind of started this, we were like, let's kind of put people here and put people here that are comfortable with those. So like the people that have been teaching statistics, they stayed on that non-STEM side. And it's worked really well. So what did we do with this? Well, we had to take our developmental and completely revamp it. So we had to move our pre-algebra to continuing education. And then so we have nothing to do with it, like the math department. And then our pre-algebra was like a co-requisite for our introductory, just in case that was necessary. But I'm pretty sure even that's going to be going away starting in the spring, because there's like no developmental option anymore come spring. So these are what we have. So you'll see we have 4 credit level classes, okay, 2 in STEM, 2 in non-STEM, and then the corresponding co-requisite courses for each one. Okay, and then all the credit level courses are 3 hours, and they're taught just like they normally would be taught. So the content's the same, and so that's kind of like where your thought process should kind of go first, how you're going to set things up. So I just kind of like to sometimes share what my experience was again. And the cool thing again is that we were given, again, great latitude. So like I am able to do something and another instructor is able to try something. And the reason I like that is because the students have that opportunity to try different layouts. So like I have a 12-week class. I have a 16-week class. And so it's really kind of nice. So for the co-requisite, we had, we couldn't do tests. There's no tests in the co-requisites. But we had to associate the grade, we learned quickly, with an activity. Because if you don't associate a grade with an activity, then they're not going to do it. And you also have to be really careful about the amount of activities you want them to do. Because for us, we had to remember that they were taking 6 hours of math. And this is a potential student that is like introductory algebra. So if you think back for us, introductory algebra, they hadn't even started covering factoring yet. and they're now in a co-requisite and a college algebra class. And so I found, and again, I have found that I love a good workbook, okay? A workbook, something like 3-hole punched. I'm one of my favorite book I have is called a video notebook. It has a video notebook that goes with it, and I'm going to show you that later. But I love a good workbook because, again, you don't want to overwhelm them. The goal of the co-requisite, and keep that in mind, what's the goal of the co-requisite? It is to help them with the content that they need to be successful in the other one. What you don't want to happen is for the co-requisite to take over. And that's actually what happened to me one semester. Actually, I think the first semester I taught it, maybe it was the second semester. It was a bad result because I just went in there and I lectured in both classes. Students cannot handle, and this is my opinion again, students cannot handle a lecture in both. So what I've kind of done is I reevaluated after that semester. That's how I learned really quickly that the grade had to be associated with an activity. They need to do that work, and the best way for them to do it is if it's a workbook and there's space for them to do it in. And then in terms of the credit course, that's each instructor's option. I would do tests, my lab math quizzes, some worksheets. I like to provide a variety of options for their grade, just rather than just full tests. And then in both, I just started this about a year and a half ago. Well, no, about a year ago. The discussion boards are 3 parts to them. They have math mindset with a video, syllabus question, and of course, there's got to be a little math in there. And I found that students, and I actually am going to change that up a little bit. I had the student should just reply to another student, but I'm actually going to put in there moving forward. Please reply and help your fellow students if you see something is incorrect in their post. That's what we're here for, is to help. And then I also like bonus. So I have made my lab math homeworks, and I actually make those. The average of all of them is a bonus. And I also make like a D2L quiz using the test generator with Pearson. And I think it works really well because it's vocabulary based, which, you can't really use a bad technology to help when you use that. So it works really good. So here is pretty much what I do. And the entire college, well, for our campus, we use the finite math book there for our math 1324 class is what we call it, mathematics for business. So in our location, we have a really high number of students that enroll in our mathematics for business. And when I first started to explore options for the co-requisite, there wasn't many options. The one thing about finite mathematics that students really need to be exposed to is word problems. And it's very hard to find that in like a developmental math book sometimes. And so when I first started, I tried using the finite math book itself as the co-requisite, and it just didn't go well. It's not the lower level math. Like, it had some of the math in it that I needed, but it didn't get to the developmental level. It assumed a lot more knowledge than the students actually had. So for my side of this, the co-requisite is what we would term, so the co-requisite, they were all students in that class, okay, and it's online. And the credit level course was what we termed commingled. So the professor was different for the credit level, and for us, the content coverage was very important. For business math, it kind of starts off, the second chapter is college algebra, but a little more complicated because it assumes great knowledge, okay? And so we had to change things up. And that's the other part of it too. Before all this, I was like, cover content out of order? What are you thinking? No, that can't be done. So what we actually do is we cover it completely out of order. So we do part of chapter, we do a couple of sections, chapter 1, we move to one section of chapter 2, and then we go do all the linear stuff. So anything that has to do with linear, so like linear programming, we even do set theory and probability, and then we backtrack and come back to like the algebra side of it, because that allows me with the co-requisite students the time to cover all of that algebra content before they see it in their credit level class. What was happening is they were freaking out in the like second or third section of chapter 2. They were already doing quadratics, and there was no way that I could cover all the material I needed for them to be ready for it. So we just kind of changed up the order we cover it, and it's been really well. It works really well. So I use for the co-requisites for my business math class, because it's algebra based, I use the co-requisite support modules. And the reason I like it is, well, one, I actually helped to make this little bit of fun, I like to say. And it's very minimal, which again is what I firmly believe is the key. So it provides information in very small little snippets, which is really good. So like if you look here, and I put this here so that you can kind of get an idea. For example, module 5, topic 1 is rational expressions. And then there's these 5 objectives is what they're called. So in a regular, like say college algebra book, it would be a chapter, a section, and then all these objectives, and it would be like 10 pages long. So what this is, it takes it and breaks it down by the objective. So that first one, I call it 511. It has a page of information. It has an example. It has videos that go with it. And then it has like the a couple of practice problems, 5 of them. So it's a 1-page front and back for the content. And it starts at the basic level, which is what I really like, because some students are like, oh, I know how to do this. And so then they can just move on to the next thing. And so I just kind of wanted to show you here what this kind of looks like. So this is for 4.1. So this is what I termed module 4, topic 1, objective 4. And it just takes a little bit. It's kind of like chapter 1, section, chapter 4, section 1, objective 4. It's the same scenario, but they're based on modules. So you can take what you want and don't do any of it if you don't want to. In terms of this module here, that's the coolest part of it. Or you could just be like, I just want this particular objective I need. And that's the cool part about this. So it provides that information, and then it also provides a video to go with it. And I love the video because it's like it's got literal writing in it. And students, I've actually asked students what they thought of the videos, and they really like them too. So it's nice. So I encourage them to use their workbook, and it is actually required that they buy the workbook, and it comes bundled with My Lab Math. And I really have found those students that purchase the workbook, watch the videos, do the things, they have a really positive experience, which is what is important. And this semester, actually, I have a student, she had emailed and she was all ready to drop because the other credit level class, it had been like 10 years since she's come back. And she's like, I just can't do that class. And it was making her just like almost give up. She was ready to just give up. And I emailed her, and her credit level instructor emailed her. And we were like, please don't. You're doing great in the co-requisite. It's going to be okay. It's been a while. Concentrate on the co-requisite. Do really well in that. And that's the other part of it. Because they can't drop one without being dropped from both, they have to choose this, and it really hurts them for a little while, but we have no choice because it's the law. But what they do is they can pass that credit level, that co-requisite, and then they can move to the credit level in the next semester. And we actually have this ability to, it kind of like, I don't know how they do it, but it's like it replaces the grade, or the grade doesn't even exist. So it doesn't even get calculated into their GPA. And so it's really helpful and a positive. And so she's moving forward in the co-requisite, and I think everything's gonna work out really well for her. At least I hope that it is. All right. And then here is my favorite. So this is by far my favorite. Before I started teaching co-requisites, I used to teach an 8-week. So it was an 8-week intermediate algebra and an 8-week college algebra. And I had tried to find a book that worked for both. This book showed up about the time that we turned to co-requisites. And I was like, oh my gosh, this book is set up perfectly for co-reqs. So for me, this is a cohort. It's a 12-week class. So it starts like 4 weeks in. It's a great option for students that maybe the 16-week class didn't start off so well. They have this option. And so I use the video notebook more than anything. And so the co-requisite will meet with me on Monday, Wednesday, and then they'll have the credit level on the Tuesday, Thursday. In the co-requisites, assume that they come with knowledge. So they're going to watch videos and work in their video notebook. That way they'll have time, like I say here, to spend time doing the math, because they need to practice the math. Me standing up there doing it is not going to help them. So I really enjoy using this. And I actually grabbed a video example of this. And so I'm actually, for this class, this is my new little thing that I'm going to do. I can actually add media to an assignment now. And I'm so excited to do that. So it's going to be in like all the locations that I can put it in. So I'm not sure about others, but even after all the COVID and online things, even in my face-to-face classes, I am providing all the material in an online environment for those, just in case we have to go there scenario, which I don't want to. But this page here is an actual page from the video notebook. It literally is going to walk them through. So you'll see little boxes that they can be prompted, and that they're going to ask them to try it and see how they do. And then there's also even more videos that can be found with the person actually working them on the board. So I like to tell students, I try to provide a variety of options for them for learning, so they don't have to go find it someplace else. And I mean, if they want to, that's fine. But as we all know, with algebra, there's a couple of different ways they can see things. And if they're not careful, they could be taught like calculus and they don't even know that they're doing calculus. And so it's a bad result. So the key is, I like to say, trying to provide them with as much information as I can. And so here is a picture of what they call in the video notebook, the practice exercises. So at the end of each of the sections, there is a readiness check, which is kind of like definitions or true false, and then practice. So again, I go back to, we have to be really mindful when it's a co-requisite that we don't overwhelm them with the content. And so it's a front and a back. Usually the most there are is 25 questions, which is perfect because it doesn't overwhelm them. And this is what they actually work in the co-requisite. I have them work this before they come to class, and they've watched the videos, and then we go over it in class. And again, the only way that I can have them do this is if I associate a grade with it. And so when I associated a grade with the video notebook, I would say 90% of the students came prepared to the class. So they had the video notebook, they had it completed, they might have had questions, but they had attempted the problems, which was the key. So coming with that knowledge so that we can then have a good discussion. And so I like to say always learning. It's one of my favorite. I try to always be learning. And so I actually try to think about how I can change things each semester. So I've learned, these are like the things I've learned, I guess is the best way to say it. Just be really careful. If you want them to do something, again, associate it with a grade. So I actually really had a good idea. I was going to have part of their grade going to tutoring. And they had to actually have the tutor sign off that, they were here, they did this, they weren't just sitting there. And it ended up working really well too. So they ended up like staying there for hours, and they actually got study groups going together, and it was a good result. So kind of just think about things that that maybe like, so for me, I actually would visit in the library. We would study together in groups, and that's where I came up with that idea. And I was like, the perfect place is where the tutors are, because they can help. Small snippets of information is the key. So for our co-requisite classes, we don't have tests, like I said, but we have like, well, attendance. So like tutoring, I throw in there. Again, great latitude on how we calculate the grade. We just can't do tests. But we do what's called an assessment at the end. So if the students, unfortunately, let's say the student doesn't pass the credit level class, we want to ensure that they have knowledge of that co-requisite course. So how do we do that? Well, we give them a diagnostic, and we even call it a diagnostic assessment, so that they don't think of it like a test, even though it is a test. And it's pretty much over everything. So not only is it a test, but it's comprehensive. The videos and the video notebook or a workbook is one of my plans always. And I also like the idea of one technology. I just kind of think about myself taking, so for me, it'd be like taking 2 English classes or something, right? I've taken multiple math classes, like most of us have. Not a big deal. That was our thing. But for most developmental students or first year college students, taking 2 math classes can be very complicated. And then not only are they taking 2 math classes here, they're probably taking 2 English, because we actually have co-requisites for our English classes too. So they could be taking 12 hours of like, so a full load, 2 math, 2 English, that's it. And then we have like a first year experience class, and that would be their semester. So nothing, like I like to say, like real fun for them to experience, just the fun of math and English and learning how to be a student in college. So that's my consistency for it, I like to say. And then feedback on setup, ask the students. So that's how I learned in that bad semester, that just standing up there and lecturing to them for both classes, it just wasn't gonna, it didn't go well, because they need to do the math, like I said. And in that co-requisite, that's the perfect place for them to do it. And it actually turned out really good. And so in terms of the data, I don't really have any, like, flat out, here's my data, because of course, all the fun things that have happened to us as a system, I think we're still trying to see how things are going, because it is such a new thing. And the way that it's set up is, what do we consider success, right? So there's technically, the students could fail both, which we don't ever want to happen, right? So they could pass the co-requisite and fail the credit level. Is that success? Some would say yes. In fact, the state of Texas says yes, because they're now credit ready. So instead of taking 3 semesters of developmental math before they get to a credit level class, they've taken 1 semester of a co-requisite course, and now they're ready for that credit level course in the next semester. So much faster, much less hours. and hoping for positive results. I like to say that it's still a little early to kind of get an idea because of all the stuff that's actually happened to our college and to students, even with the pandemic and everything. And then things being online, it's like, I mean, yeah. So if students do well in both, that's the bonus. That's the goal, of course. But they can also just pass the credit level and they could actually fail the co-requisite. And so that still though is a positive. It's a success because they've passed that credit level. So I actually, and this might not mean a lot to you, but this is what we kind of did to help our students understand what we termed their math path. And it actually helps us too. So the TSIA 2, okay, is our placement test for the state of Texas. And this is how we place them. And they either do what's a non-algebraic or an algebraic pathway, and it gets them to the right place. And then they have an ABE score and all this stuff. But again, this is all Texas-based. But I encourage you at your location to have something that will not only help faculty, but advisors and students alike to make sure they're, especially if you have like a STEM and a non-STEM option for co-requisites in your classes. I've actually heard several have just done a single co-requisite and it is set for all, whatever their credits are. But that wouldn't have worked for ours because statistics, that's not algebra based. They need a whole other set of skills to do statistics or math for liberal arts, which has really nothing to do with like intermediate algebra. So they actually have a really cool text that they use for the co-req for statistics to really help them get that co-requisite knowledge down so that they do well in that statistics. And then that is my last little tidbit, is just have fun with it. Don't get overwhelmed and constantly think about what you could change that next semester, and don't be afraid to change it. And that's the one thing I've learned throughout this is you're going to change it. You have to change it, and try to remember. And that was my thing. Try to remember something that was good. And for me, the good was as associating everything with a grade for that co-req. So when I didn't associate the video notebook with a grade, the students didn't do it. And therefore it was a bad result. So that is my part. I wanted to make sure to leave some time at the end in case anybody had any questions. And I went fast. Oh. Thank you, Deborah. So the pace in my credit course, it depends on each one. How's that? It's the thing I've learned. So for my business math class, we'll go with that one first. It's pretty nice in terms of the pace of it. So we start really just some nice linear, and then we kind of build as we go. And so there's time. Actually, this semester, I actually had time to cover content and delegate a whole week for like a test. So I actually have a face-to-face class, which is really exciting. I'm excited. I haven't taught face-to-face since like fall 2019. So it was really nice to be back on campus. So I wanted to, one of the things that students had mentioned in previous evaluations, I guess, is they like the option of stopping content and taking a test. And so I tried to really bring that into it. And so that's, I actually implemented it this semester. I cover the content, and then there's a whole week slated. So it's a Tuesday, Thursday class. So that Tuesday I have a review session, and then that test is on Thursday. And then we start covering material again. So it's like material for 4 weeks and then a test. And I've also decided to not do a final exam this semester. And that was purely because of the COVID scenario, just in case we had to go online, and I didn't want to have to worry about trying to find an alternate for a final exam that could have been worth 25% of their grade. In terms of college algebra, we have a lot of content to cover, but what I was able to do is kind of shift some of that content to the co-requisite, which is something you can kind of think about. The co-requisite has, and it depends on each campus, of course, each college, and what your requirements are for your co-recs and your credit levels. But so like just some of the upper levels, say linear equations and word problems, what I've done is I will cover like linear equations, rational equations, radical equations, so just the basics of how to solve those in the co-requisite, and save the fun for the credit level, which is like the word problems and the application part of it. And so it provides a little more time in that credit level, but the students are still seeing the content, which is the key. Oh, so see, and then there's some, let me tell you, the thing for me with co-requisites is, let's see, for our adjuncts. So we have a lot of adjuncts. And so here's something I haven't really brought up. So here's the other side of this. So instructors, you got to start thinking, if you're moving to a co-requisite, for us, in the state of Texas, we have adjuncts. A lot of our adjuncts, though, are not able to teach our credit levels. So they were teaching most of our developmentals. Well, now we don't have developmentals, we have co-requisites. And so now the adjuncts are teaching the co-requisites, and we have, as full-time faculty, we have to teach the credit level. So that's providing that instance where they're sharing. Again, that's not my side of it, but I know several faculty in my office suite, even the full-time faculty member is the credit level, and then the adjunct is the co-requisite side of it, and they're communicating, making sure, but they work together to make sure everything is nice for them. And most of our adjuncts appreciate a nice course that's almost pre-built for them, because they don't have to mess with it. If you think about our developmentals in previous semesters, they were all nicely made and we were all used to them. So we knew exactly what we were supposed to be doing. With this new co-requisite stuff, people were like, what am I supposed to be doing? So it was kind of nice for them to experience something that was already almost given to them. As a full-time faculty member, I wanted the ability to try different things because it's so new. Why not try something different? And especially because I was given that opportunity, I wanted to. And in fact, I've also I piloted this first. The first time I used it, I piloted it, because if I didn't like it, I wanted to have that ability to change it, so I wasn't set in it. And so if you can do that, I encourage you to try that pilot option, because it's going to give you the opportunity to see what's out there and do some investigating, get some information, try different things, and just, that's the thing, try it. Let's see, I'm trying to read the questions. Oh, I'm not going to disagree with you on that one, Allison. The co-requisites, you have to be careful that they don't just end up being like a side for college algebra, for example. So because, let's see how this, so for my business, I can't do that. So the business side of it, like they're literally in another person's credit level course. So they don't have that opportunity. And here's the other part of it. So funny. The co-requisite class that they're taking with me for their business is online, purely online. So no testing center, no nothing. So it's purely online. I do little mini lectures with them every 2 weeks, and I record it and I post it out there for them in addition to all the videos and the workbook that they're supposed to have. So they have all these resources. And then on the side, their credit level course. Their credit level course could be online. It could be face-to-face. It could have been a completely different instructor, or it could have been me. I'm actually teaching 2 of the face-to-face ones. And so I actually have some of my students that are in the co-requisite or in my credit level class too. But a lot of them, and this is the kicker, a lot of them were like, when I asked them the question, so is the material the same? Is the material in the co-requisite the same as in the credit level? And all of them said yes. And it's so not true. Not true in any way, shape, or form, I told them. In fact, the content is completely separate and different. That co-requisite is much nicer. And so you're right, you have to be really careful that the co-requisite just doesn't become this side thing. But again, I don't know what your requirements are. So if the goal is to just make sure, if it's that just, if you're not doing the just in time thing, then that's not necessarily something that you have to abide by. But for us, it was, they are getting the content before in that co-requisite so that they can then do the credit level stuff. And the credit level instructor and the co-requisite instructor are abiding by a course schedule. And so to try to throw anything into that, it wouldn't work. Let me see. That's, you know, Deborah, that's the goal right there. That's what I would really like to know, how they are doing in the classes that they move forward in, right? I mean, and I honestly, I have no knowledge of that. I wish I could say like, this is that my hope is that they continue to do well. I like to think that if a student is in my co-rec and my college algebra class and they do well in both, I think they would have done well in the developmental sequence to college algebra and moving forward, I believe. I think what sometimes really helps for co-requisites and credit level students is some of them don't see the worth of a developmental class. And so when they're enrolled in both, they see that positive. So they're in this co-requisite. They're like, oh, okay, this is why I'm doing this. This is why I'm doing, oh, and this is how I'm going to use it. And so it really hits home to them, and it really makes it a positive experience, I guess would be the best way to say it. Now, of course, the hard thing is getting them to realize that they have to spend time in each course to work on it. Because if you don't, you're not gonna, especially in the college algebra one, because if you don't do that material to prepare you for college algebra, you're gonna, and I tell them, I say, you're gonna feel icky if you're not practicing that stuff in that co-requisite. It's just not gonna feel like a happy thing at all. And so, yes. I can agree with you on that too. But so here's my thing too, is I think about that. So I like to think about this when I first started teaching, which has been several years ago, in developmental. Some of our students would start in pre-algebra. So pre-algebra, introductory algebra, intermediate algebra, and then they'd be in college algebra. So just because they had 4 semesters of math, we assumed they had knowledge. But could they get through all that dev math, get to college algebra, and still not do well? Yes. So what's happened? I'm not sure. See, and so I like to think, and again, this is just my experience. I like to think because they are put in both of these classes, okay, the ability to learn them both is there. It's like anything with college. There's got to be the desire to want to do it, and those students, and I provide some of that desire by making it part of their grade and by making them do it, which is what I like. So yeah, that's my side of it. But if you ever have any questions, I am always, I love to talk about Corex. So, and also I love to find out new ideas about it too. So definitely, yeah. Oh, and it's Lamar University's in Beaumont, Texas. So it's a Texas thing. Thank you.